Okay, here's a question for you. Have you ever really thought about why a fresh carrot snaps with that perfect, satisfying crunch, while a piece of raw steak is, soft and squishy? It feels like a simple thing you'd notice in the kitchen. But the answer, well, it takes us on a journey deep into the microscopic world of biology. Let's find out what's really going on here.
So this is our central mystery, right? You've got the firm, rigid structure of plants on one hand, and on the other, the soft, totally pliable nature of meat. I mean, they both come from living things, so what is it that makes them feel so fundamentally different? To figure this out, we went and talked to a couple of experts.
First up, we've got Tilly, a butcher. She works with meat all day, every day, and her description is just perfect. It's squishy, it's malleable, you can literally change its shape with no problem. This observation right here is our first big clue.
And for the other side of the story, here's Adam, a greengrocer. He gets straight to the point. Plants are firm, they have a nice crunch, and listen to this. He even hints at the answer, dropping this term cellular walls. So we've got two totally different textures, and it really seems like the secret is hidden at the cellular level.
To really crack this case, we have to look way beyond the butcher shop and the grocery aisle. We need to zoom in, way in, to the tiny, microscopic building blocks that make a carrot, and a steak. And that tiny unit is the cell. Every single living thing on this planet, from the smallest little bacteria to the biggest blue whale, is made up of cells. You can think of them as the essential Lego bricks of life. Honestly, without them, life as we know it just wouldn't exist.
Now, some organisms, they're just a single cell doing their thing. But the plants and animals we're talking about today, they're multicellular. They're these incredibly complex structures built from billions and billions of these tiny units, all working together. And that's where our story really gets interesting.
So let's kick off our investigation with Exhibit A, the animal cell. This is the basic building block of meat, and it holds the answer to why meat is so soft. Inside every animal cell, you've got a few key players. There's the nucleus, which is kind of like the brain of the operation. You've got the cytoplasm, this jelly-like goop that fills the cell, and mitochondria, which are the tiny power plants. But for our mystery, the single most important part is that outer layer holding it all together, the cell membrane.
And this right here, this is the crucial point. The cell membrane is a thin, flexible layer. It's basically like a tiny water balloon. It does a great job of holding everything inside, but it has zero rigid structure of its own. So what happens when you group millions of these little water balloons together? Well, you get something squishy and malleable, exactly like Tilly the butcher described.
All right, time for Exhibit B, the plant cell. Now, at first glance, it looks pretty similar to the animal cell. But as you're about to see, it's hiding a few game-changing secret weapons. Okay, so you can see it has all the same basic machinery as an animal cell. A nucleus, cytoplasm, you get it. But it comes with three major upgrades: the cell wall, the vacuole, and chloroplasts. And these three things are what make a plant, well, a plant. So what do these parts actually do? Well, the chloroplasts are where photosynthesis happens. That's how plants make their own food. The vacuole is this big internal water sac that pushes outwards, keeping the cell plump and firm. And then there's the big one for our mystery, the cell wall. This thing is a tough, rigid outer layer made of a material called cellulose. And fun fact, cellulose is the most abundant organic material on Earth. The cell wall basically acts like a strong structural box around the cell.
Okay, we've now got all the evidence. We've looked at the squishy animal cell, and we've looked at the reinforced plant cell. It's time to put them side by side and solve this crunch mystery once and for all. So let's lay it all out. As you can see, both cells share all the basic components for life. But look at where they differ. The animal cell is missing a cell wall and a big vacuole. The plant cell has both, and it's these two additions that explain everything about the different textures we feel.
So here it is, the big answer to our mystery. That tough, rigid cell wall is exactly what gives vegetables their structure. That snap you hear when you bite into a fresh carrot? That's the sound of thousands of these tiny, reinforced boxes breaking. Pretty cool, right?
And the vacuole plays a huge part too. Remember how Adam the greengrocer mentioned that plants can get droopy? That happens when this internal water balloon, the vacuole, starts to lose water. It stops pushing against the cell wall, and the whole structure just wilts. It's exactly like letting the air out of a tire. So let's just sum it all up. Meat is soft because its building blocks, the animal cells, are basically just tiny water balloons with a flimsy membrane. Vegetables are firm and crunchy because their building blocks, the plant cells, are like tiny, strong boxes with a rigid cell wall for support.
It's just an amazing example of how one tiny difference at the microscopic level creates this huge difference in the world we can see and touch every single day.
And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. The simple addition of a tiny wall around a cell completely changes the entire nature of an organism. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other invisible structures, just as small and just as fundamental, are quietly shaping the reality we experience every single moment?